Was fashionably late. All right, this should start. Oh, I am live. That's why I had to move this. Okay, great. Awesome. All right, let me pull up some of my notes. So today I'm going to be reading a little bit from some of the notes that I was taking because I was reading a lot of articles this week, and I really wanted to deliver to you a really good a really good message. There we go again. Because I'm very passionate about this topic, and I'm guessing I'm waiting for some people to come in. Um, okay, am I waiting for some people on Facebook? I can't even see if anybody's on. Okay, great. All right, so today I am talking about mental health and exercise, and there is much greater of a link than we give it credit for. In fact, what I'm going to be covering today is just how exercise does help you out, kind of like the biology behind it, because if you don't know me, I'm Drew Mulvey. I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist, I'm a certified nutrition specialist, a board certified nutrition specialist. And I also have a bachelor's in biology. So I absolutely love learning about chemical pathways in the body. I'm fascinated with the body. So it's kind of it all interconnects. And I'm also an avid athlete. I'm a cyclist and a runner. I have done triathlons before in the past. I was a diver for 13 years of my life. I've always been an avid uh, gym goer, I guess you could say. Fitness girl. I've always been very much into fitness, and I do CrossFit now too. And I have seen what this does for my mental health as well. Just this feeling of satisfaction that you get after a great exercise and challenging your body. And there is a lot more to that than just the surface. So that's kind of what I'm going to cover today. Um, all right, so I am just waiting for people to come in. Do I have anybody? All right. Well, first off, I'm going to actually share a little bit about my story. Why am I so passionate about mental health? Is actually, this was something that touched my heart this week as I was researching, and I didn't realize how deep of a passion it actually was in my heart until I literally couldn't stop researching about this. And um, I, I can go into detail a little bit later, but there was just something that hit my heart in a way that I didn't expect this week. So that's what I'm delivering to you. So my background, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 14 years old, and I also was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. So I had all those things kind of swirling around. I was also diagnosed with insomnia. I had irritable bowel syndrome, which actually your mental state can very much affect how your intestines are functioning, but I can get into that in a different talk. I was on medication for about 10 years of my life. And I think it was 24, 25 is when I started to go off of medication, and I started to go towards more holistic therapy, alternative medicine. Again, this is just for educational purposes only. I am not saying for you to go off of medication because there are withdrawals and you should do this under a physician. And medicine does have its place. So I just wanted to clear that up. But through that whole entire time, I've also found exercise. And also, I'm going to share a little something about me. A couple years ago, I had a severe anxiety attack. That wasn't just an attack. I spiraled down to a point where I was so low, I was suicidal. And I went into massive depression. From there, I finally started picking myself up. You know, as I had mentioned before, I am a Christian, and I truly believe that my faith in God and my walk with God has gotten me to where I am today, that I do not look as I did 2 years ago, and I'm definitely a different person. But through that time, I started finding things that I really love doing. I found CrossFit. I have been challenging myself. I've been waking up in the morning at 5 a.m., and it's a blessing to be able to wake up and exercise. I do struggle with things here and there, but I've been able to pinpoint my triggers a lot more. And overall, adding in that exercise in the morning, that vigorous exercise, has done wonders for me. I feel like I can focus more. I feel like I have a better disposition. it it's really been medicinal to me. So with that, I wanted to present this to you with mental health and exercise. So all the research that I've been doing, I'm going to talk about some neurotransmitters. I'm going to talk about exactly what exercise does to some of the processes in your body and some of the pathways, and then why it is so important. So this is going to be just kind of a, I don't want to say a basic, but it's going to be the first in a series that I'm going to do this month. So, all right, I'd like to start off with quoting something from one of my favorite movies. If you've seen Legally Blonde, you're gonna know this. Definitely one of my favorites. When she was in the courtroom and they were talking about how is it that this person could have killed her husband, and she's like, no, she couldn't have done that because exercise releases endorphins, and endorphins make you happy. There's so much truth to that. Thank you, Elle Woods. Gosh, love that character. If she was a real person, she would definitely be one of my role models. But it does. It releases endorphins. And what exactly do endorphins do? They actually help with a lot of physiological functions, but it actually helps to activate the body's opioid system, which, yes, opioids do target that system, but it does give you a sense of calm and a sense of well-being. So it does that in a very healthy way. And that's why you get that sense of euphoria after you exercise. And that euphoria, that's where the reward center could come in potentially. And that's where other things can happen if you abuse other things, such as the opioids. It's that instant gratification, that euphoria. But it does. It brings you a sense of euphoria. And why is that? Well, endorphins actually increase dopamine production. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's not only responsible for your mood, and yes, it's the reward center and the pleasure seeking center, but it's also responsible for sleep. It's also responsible for your focus. It's responsible also for your memory and attention. I know that when the dopamine is low, you're just not feeling good. You're not able to focus. You're unmotivated. You're not sleeping well. So there is a catch to that. You don't want dopamine to be too low, and then you don't want it to be too high, which there has been issues with that. Dopamine is usually equated to addiction. And dopamine, yes, because it is that reward center, that it's that pleasure seeking center. So too high of dopamine can be a problem, too low of dopamine can be a problem. But I've actually been reading lately, it was not the New York Times, but one of the magazines came out with a special article on addiction. And again, there was something that just sparked in my heart when I was reading this. And they were talking about dopamine and the pathways in addiction. And what they came to found was there was another neurotransmitter that was actually depleted in those individuals so that the dopamine was not able to be cleared from the brain. And that specific neurotransmitter is known as GABA. Now, GABA is responsible for calming you down. Usually you take that if you are not sleeping well, and GABA is also decreased in ADHD. So I was really fascinated by that. I'm like, okay, what's this interconnection here? And so I was reading about a little bit more about dopamine and GABA and how those things can be balanced out. And actually what I had found is that GABA blocks the dopamine receptors. So that gives you that sense of calm. And also, not dopamine, excuse me, GABA can be decreased in those with severe depression too. So that's what really sparked me here. In this article that I was reading, they found that intense activity actually helps with the production of not only glutamate to help with that, it can help with focus too, but GABA to kind of level out the dopamine so that it doesn't get too high and blocks those receptors so it doesn't get too high. Also, exercise is responsible for creating more neurotransmitters at the same time, and particularly vigorous exercise. So one of the studies that they found in this particular article that I was looking at is that they took cyclists, and the cyclists were going, I think, for about 45 minutes at about 85% capacity of what their heart rate can go at. And they found that there were two main places in the brain that were stimulated and that increased GABA production, and that was the visual cortex, which is in charge of processing visual information, and then there's the anterior cingulate cortex, which is helpful for regulating heartbeat, cognitive function, and emotions. So there is the link that their vigorous exercise actually helps to increase GABA and glutamate, particularly in cyclists. Like, shout out to the cyclists! Woo! Yes, I am a cyclist, and that just made me really happy. And no wonder when I get on the bike, that is like my second sanctuary. I love being on that bike. So that's what they were looking at in this particular article, that they were thinking about, wow, exercise could actually be used as an alternative therapy in depression. And I know for myself, having that vigorous exercise like CrossFit, cycling, running has very much helped me. But there's other systems in the body which exercise really helps with. And one in particular is the endocannabinoid system. That system normally is talked about when there's CBD oil or marijuana, because it does stimulate that system and it gives you a sense of calm. But what that system is, it's part of the central nervous system that's composed of receptors, of neurotransmitters, and receptor proteins. The receptors are CB1 and CB2, and there's the endocannabinoid molecules, which are the neurotransmitters. And there's the receptor proteins, which is anandamide and 2-arachidinolglycerol. That, I promise, there's a reason why I read these, because it's going to come into play when I talk about exercise in a couple of minutes. So activation of this system results in decreased anxiety, decreased pain perception, and a sense of calm. So CBD oil, or actually topical CBD, that's why they've been recommending it topically if you have any sort of muscle pains, because it does decrease pain. But it calms you down, it decreases anxiety. A lot of people have been using that if they can't sleep at night. But interestingly, because of this activation of the endocannabinoid system in those that are athletes or those that are active, there were some studies that I was looking into for this particularly, and the anandamide, that's one of the receptor proteins. So you have the primary receptors, then the receptor proteins, which are on the receptors, and then you have the neurotransmitters, which there's a perfect little patch or perfect little shape of those receptors that those neurotransmitters go right into, that's particular for that protein. And then that's how the process starts going through. So these tests, after looking at athletes that were running for a long time, test shows that plasma anandamide levels were significantly elevated in runners and cyclists, but not sedentary controls. Again, shout out to the runners and the cyclists. Anandamide in particular works on the CB1 receptors that are responsible for the sense of calm and the sense of well-being and the decreased pain perception. And these are also the same receptors that THC from cannabis activate. So moral of the story, exercise instead of smoke, because then you're less likely to get arrested. A joke. It's a joke. But exercise can really bring you that sense of calm and can really be beneficial to you. Now, here was the one that I was really interested in. As I was saying, that I was reading that quarterly about addictions, and something just sparked in me. And so I was looking at exercise and I was thinking, well, dopamine and GABA and all these neurotransmitters, and how is this all linked? And what I was looking at is that there are certain behaviors in those with addictions that lead them to want more and more and more of that. So I'm going to be reading some things from an article that I was reading. There were some tests done on animals that they were in a paired environment versus a controlled environment. And basically what it was talking about is the, how were they saying this? The self-administration of a particular drug that rat had or that animal had. And it depended on the environment that they were in versus a control environment. And this is interesting because they said that this procedure has been long used in substance abuse research, and drugs with high abuse reliably produce a conditioned place preference under a wide range of conditions. So That's where they were looking at is particular addictions, the environment that you're in, and also what it does to your brain, which was really interesting. So what they found is that in a distinctive environment with the after effects of running, so this is where exercise played in with the rats, produces a conditioned place preference, suggesting that the positive affective states of exercise last beyond the duration of physical activity. Now, what exactly does that mean? I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. These models of addictive behavior provide a platform by which researchers can critically evaluate interventions that prevent, reduce, or eliminate problematic forms of drug use during different transitional stages of a substance use disorder. And recent studies report that exercise reduces drug self administration during several of these stages, and a number of drugs have been examined in these studies. But cocaine and amphetamine like drugs have received the most attention, which I'm actually going to get into that in a little bit. I think that was really fascinating. So basically, what it was saying is that the more exercise and the more vigorous exercise that you did have, there was a less likelihood for that particular, it was an animal study, but that particular animal to be self administering drugs to themselves. So I thought that was super cool. And you feel so much better after you exercise too. The next one that I am going to be talking about is methamphetamines. That's usually used with ADHD. What they have found actually with ADHD is there's a positive correlation between focus and exercise in ADHD. Now, we're going to come full swing. At the beginning, I was talking about dopamine and I was talking about GABA. In ADHD, there tends to be lower GABA levels and there can tend to be lower dopamine levels. So that definitely correlates. Lower dopamine, less focus. GABA, you're not getting that sense of calm, so you're just all over the place. And you can actually, there's 7 different types of ADHD, but I don't need to go into those. But again, what they were looking at is that physical activity, particularly moderate to intense aerobic exercise, so again, that vigorous effort, is a beneficial and well-tolerated intervention for children and adolescents. So this particular study that I was looking at in ADHD was for children and adolescents because it's on the rise right now that many of our children and adolescents are being diagnosed with ADHD and they're not able to focus. So they did say future research should include more adequately powered trials and investigate the ideal exercise prescription. So really, we really need to be getting our kids out there and exercising and vigorously exercising. One of the other things that they found was cognitive, behavioral, and physical symptoms of ADHD were alleviated in most instances. And the largest intervention effects were reported in mixed exercise programs. Very interesting. So again, I just wanted to say that this is for educational purposes only. This is not meant to treat, diagnose, or cure anything or say that this is the panacea. Please be sure that if you are on medication, that you are seeking a licensed professional if you do have any problems with this or need medication. They do have their place, so please go and seek them out. All right, so the last one that I am going to cover, I was covering all last month about the proper nutrients that you need to calm your mood and to boost your mood. And I was also covering the foods as well. But one of the most important things that exercise does is it increases blood flow. And your nutrients are actually carried in your blood to all of your different organs and all of your different muscles. So by increasing the blood flow, that's just going to get the nutrients to those places more. That's going to help your brain health. That's going to help with muscle recovery. That's going to help with digestion. It's going to help with several things. It's going to help with the lining of your intestines as well. So it's super important that you get proper blood flow to your organs and even to your extremities as well. It also increases lymph circulation. So lymph drainage is super important because lymph actually carries toxins and debris from other cellular processes in your body, and it brings it down to the liver to be processed so that it's eliminated from the body properly. Now, lack of detoxification can actually lead to mental fog, depression, and lethargy. So that's no bueno whatsoever. So what happens, I do part of what I do is I do have a 21-day whole food detox. I am very passionate about this topic as well because if your liver is not functioning properly, then many different processes in your body are not going to be functioning either, especially if you have improper detoxification pathways. What can happen is that those toxins are not getting out of your body and they're accumulating. That not can only can lead to increased inflammation and it can lead to weight loss resistance, but it can really do a number on your brain. And it can really do a number not only on your focus, but also on your mood. So it is very important that you do have your liver functioning properly and that you're feeding it the right things. So, and very important that you have lymph drainage. So exercise is very important, not only for maintaining weight during a detox, but getting things out of your body so the liver is able to detox things properly and eliminate them as soon as possible. But that's pretty much what I have for today. Again, this is going to be a series. I am going to be talking about mental health and exercise this month, as it's National Health and Fitness Month and National Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's interesting, the two coincide so beautifully. But I will be talking next week a little bit more about your view on exercise in regards to mental health, because it can be very beneficial, but it can also be very harmful depending on your mindset as well. So I'm going to go into a little bit of that with the mental health, the mindset, and how your mind frame is when you are approaching exercise. But the takeaway really from this is, incorporating at least 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise into your routine every week, and make a point to get to the gym and challenge yourself, because you're going to help with these neurotransmitters and the production of these neurotransmitters that are going to help with not only your mood, but also with your focus as well. And your overall longevity is very, very important. So just to recap, why do I love exercise so much? Yes, I am a personal trainer as well. I work with active women in particular. I work with pretty much everybody, but I am a personal trainer and I do CrossFit, and I'm a cyclist and a runner. So I love exercise. It's always been a big part of my life. And I have found that in the past 2 years, it has been very beneficial and very helpful in getting up at 5 a.m. It's hard, but I get to do something in the morning that I absolutely love. It makes me feel good for the rest of the day. And it does actually help me with focus. So I did want to cover on that. But some of the recap is that exercise increases endorphins, which endorphins help with the production of dopamine, which can help with focus, it can help with mood, it can help with your circadian rhythm. Vigorous exercise also helps with another neurotransmitter known as GABA, which can be depleted in addiction and depression. And excuse me. So it's important to have the two together so that the dopamine does not get too high. Exercise also activates the endocannabinoid system, which helps to give you that sense of calm, decrease that pain perception, and give you that sense of well-being, which is normally linked to the THC that's in marijuana. We also talked about how exercise is very important for addictions, and some of the studies that they found is that, just to break that down a little bit deeper, is that exercise, that vigorous exercise, actually helped with that less self-administration of the drug. So there was less need or draw for that because they were getting fulfilled from that exercise. But again, that's not the end all be all. If there are any sort of issues that could be at hand, please seek a licensed professional and be under professional care. Exercise is also very good for ADHD, as I was talking about, that dopamine and GABA. GABA tends to be decreased in ADHD as well, and dopamine as well, so that focus can be off, the sense of mood can be off. And they were finding actually in children and adolescents that when they were incorporating moderate to intense exercise, that their focus was getting better and many other parameters of mental health were getting better. And it helps with blood flow. So you want to get the nutrients flowing throughout your body so that you're thinking properly, like B6, magnesium, tryptophan, well, amino acids, tryptophan, tyrosine, and phenylalanine. Tyrosine and phenylalanine in particular are precursors to dopamine, so it's very important that you can get those in your diet. And then tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin, and you need B6 as a cofactor to help with the conversion of that. So very important that those things are able to flow through your body, and that the lymph is able to flow through your body, so that it helps with lymph drainage as well, which helps with detoxification pathways. And the less toxins you have in your body, the better you're going to be functioning and the happier you are going to be. So it's, again, about 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise is recommended each week, and you can break that up any way that you want. And moral of the story, get to the gym, get outside, challenge yourself. Challenging yourself, you are going to find that you are capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. And again, but it's the mental game too, which I'm going to be covering next week. I'm very much about the mental game, especially, I'm going to refer to one of my favorite books that I'd like to give a shout out to Ashley Prescott, who is another amazing personal trainer that recommended this book to me. So I'm going to be talking about that next week, which I am very excited for all of you to join in on. So that concludes mental health and exercise part 1. If you would like to speak further with me, I do work with active women who want to lose weight. They want to balance their hormones. They want to improve their gastrointestinal symptoms. So any sort of IBS or any sort of gastrointestinal distress that you're going through. And I also help with incorporating a Zoom meal prep session for the recommendations that I give to you, because one of my underlying passions is to help to repair the relationship with food that a lot of people have been robbed of. So if that sounds like you, if you're an active woman, if you want to increase energy, increase your stamina, lose weight, increase your performance, balance your hormones, and really repair your relationship with food, I would love to speak further with you. So please DM me if with your information so that I can reach out to you and that you can set up, it's called a 15-minute icebreaker call. It is also available on my website, www.redeeminglifenutrition.com, that you can just click on it and then you can get it in my calendar. So I would love to speak further with you, and I really hope that everybody got something from this. I thought that this was so cool. As you could probably hear, I'm really into the biology of it, and that this went a little bit deeper than just that euphoria that you feel after you exercise. So again, I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday, and I hope you get out, that the weather is nice, get out and challenge yourself this weekend. And also happy Mother's Day to many of you. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to... All right, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining me today. I really appreciate that. As I said, my gosh, has my head been cut off the whole time? I really appreciate all of you joining me, and I really appreciate that you gave your time today to listen to this. I really hope that this was helpful and gave you a little bit more even motivation to really get out there and start exercising. It's really important for mental health. Again, happy Friday, and I hope to see you next week.